Hi everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how I do Rosette Starts, which they go by a couple different names: cinched starts, magic loop starts, Josephine knot starts, I think some books call them. They refer to the same thing. It's any start that is, you make a chain of stitches that are cinched together so you can start from the center of a circle working out for like the crown of a hat, the tip of mittens or thumb tips, things like that. This is a nifty little process. I incorporate the Rosebud Start, which there's another video on my channel that talks about that on its own. My rosettes incorporate that because I found a nifty little way to just do the whole thing all at once. So I would recommend watching that video first because it makes a little more sense out of what I'm about to do, but it's not really that hard. So you're going to start out with your tail. I leave a long tail because this is going to be used to cinch the beginning stitches together. It also is going to be woven in to make sure that the cinch doesn't come undone. So I usually leave like, I don't know, probably a foot. If you're more competent at weaving than I am and don't need so much, do whatever works for you. But regardless of the length, I'm going to do the same thing where I kind of lock this in my pinky so that there's some tension on this, and I'm going to wrap a series of loops around my thumb in the same way. Pretty simple. So this comes around, there's an X on the back, same as with your plain Rosebud Start. Honestly, this process is the exact same, but you make one extra loop, and I'll show you why in a second. So pull that through. Now I've got 2 loops. How many loops you need is going to be dependent on what stitch you do. So Oslo is like finish 1 + 1. There's 1 front loop, 1 back loop. So I need 2 loops altogether. Like Mammon, Corrigan, Telemark, Dalby, those are stitches that have 1 front loop and 2 back loops, so I would need 3 loops. So you continue doing this until you have the number of loops you need. Needles against your thumb, it goes under everything that's on the thumb, and then out here, so you put another loop closer to the base of your thumb than the tip, and keep them in order. So I have the 3 loops that I need to make my first Mammon stitch, which is what the sample is going to be, 1 + 2. When I get to that point, I add 1 more loop because this is a circular start, and I'll show you why when I get there. So let me do 1 more. So again, that's the number of loops you need to make your stitch plus 1. And the reason we have 1 is because this is what we're going to use to cinch our rosette together, because this is part of the tail. If you pull it out, sometimes it can be a little tricky, but it'll get there. There we go. As you can see, if I pull on this, that tail comes back, and this is what we're going to build our stitches off of. So you pull it out a little bit. I like to attach it to my middle finger, so, you know, not too loose, not too tight. And as you make your stitches, you're going to go through this front to back first and then make your stitch. So Mammon is 1 + 2, it's a finished stitch. So I'm going to pick this up first, and this counts as my first stitch, this process right here. So 2 on the back, go through, pull through. So that's stitch 1, which is kind of more important in circular starts. For a lot of people, you do have to have a specific count, but you just continue that way. So this is going to be my second stitch. I go front to back through this loop, and then I make the stitch. 2 loops. So that's stitch number 2. Again, front to back, make your stitch as it needs. So that's stitch 3. I'm going to make 12 stitches because this is what I usually do with this yarn. So stitch 4. Stitch 5. Stitch 6. Seven. 8. And as you go further along, you might need to gently kind of pull this out, because that's what's attached to down there. As you can see, it gets shorter. As you have more on your chain, you might need a little more room so you can keep getting stitches on there. So that was 8 stitches, so this is 9. This is 10. This is 11. Okay, and then this is 12, my last stitch. Let me get this finished and I'll show you what we got going on. There we go. Try that again. Okay, 12. So let's see. Yeah, you can see this is our loop. It goes through the base. As we were making those, you know, going front to back through that loop, we were wrapping the bottom already around this cinching loop here. So when you get ready to come back to this side, I pull this kind of like this. I don't pull it all the way. I don't cinch it all the way. I prefer a little bit of looseness. After a couple rounds, then I'll pull it. It just seems to make life easier. But as you can see right here, we've got our little Rosebud Start again. There's the loops that are sitting in a donut that go around our main first loop. And so when you come back to this, this is the only kind of part to remember, is that when you go to make, you know, these are your connection loops, this very first stitch, you're going to do all of those. And an easy way is like, this is our first little middle part. You can see that's the first one that goes there. You want to pick all of these up as if they're one connection loop. I found that's easier. It kind of tucks things away to the back as it needs to, and it looks really nice. Everything after that is completely just normal. You just continue with your connection loops as they are. This is the only part, and the only part in the entire thing where you treat all of these as if they are one connection loop. So rather than picking up just this top one, you know, like there, because there's 3 of them, I'm going to, you can see the hole even. I'm going to pierce all of those and just treat that as one connection loop. And because this would be the second round, so like pretend this is a hat or a circle, this would be the second round where I do double increases into every stitch. I'm going to just go back through that hole again. Okay, momming. And then everything after this is just completely normal. You would just go as you know, treat them the same. This is one loop, connection loop. This is another connection loop. You just pick up the top one. You don't need to go through all that big chunk again. You can just pick up this top one, and then you just go as you need. This video is much, much longer than this takes for a normal process. This start I can usually knock out very, very quickly. Like I said, I've used it on a wide variety of stitches, and it works kind of on everything. This is Oslo, you know, kind of a looser gauge, but it has a nice little spiral. This is Arboga stitch. This is Mommin, which is what we just did, but you can really see the nice spiral. It really just comes out very nice without really too much extra anything. This is a telemark example. So this is a plated stitch. When you do a Rosebud Start on its own, there is a difference between plated stitches and non-plated stitches. If you are doing it as part of a rosette, just do the plain Rosebud Start. Don't worry about plating those first couple of loops. I've done it both ways. If you plate them from the beginning, it kind of makes a mess. If you just do a normal standard Rosebud Start where you just go under everything for all of the loops you need for your stitch, it comes out just fine. It looks like this. You again just treat those extra loops on that first one as like a single connection loop and you'll be just fine. But yeah, these are the rosettes that I make with the Rosebud Start, which sounds almost redundant, but it is a distinction. Highly recommend. It's my favorite way to make hats, and I make a lot of hats, but I also use it for any time I need a round circular start.